Welcome back to the newest episode of the Evensong Guild Adventurers. Sort of. For now, let me introduce the heroes of our tale. The first of which, from our noble group, is the bespectacled warrior Deus, an intelligent fighter who believes his future self has come back to stop him from making some rather silly mistakes. Next is his best friend and companion, Octavia, a stalwart warrior in tight plate armor, wielding a sword and shield as she protects her companions from any harm. Thirdly is the investigator Dexter Darkfang, robed in top hat and monocle, cane rapier guiding his older frame through twisting streets. He ensures that no stone goes unturned in any mystery. Fourthly, we have the enchanting acrobat, her wooden legs making her run like lightning any time they get into a scrap. Finally, we have the ever-mysterious sorceress Delphine the Black, servant of divine powers and lover of gothic clothing and dark artifacts. Currently, their main adversary is Alphonse de Bois, dungeon architect, armorer, and newly Lord of Dark Snow. He currently works on a suit of armor that delivers a shocking disposition, with his daughter Alice as his apprentice. For now, however, we will follow Alice as she becomes used to her new home. Alice can be described primarily as a small girl, inquisitive of nature, and sporting silvered hair tied back into a braid, with sharp ice blue eyes. She is currently piecing together a brand new invention of her father's, a tiny weapon, the power of a longbow but fitting in the palm of her hand, using a magic powder called spark powder to trigger an ignition. She called it a pistol. She loaded it into the short and crossbow bolts, manufactured and molded to its frame, and aimed it at a straw dummy. The dummy's chest exploded into a smatter of straw, and Alice was knocked backwards to the floor. Shocked and dazed, Alice climbed to her feet and dusted herself off as her father came in, saw the damage, and smiled. "Splendid. The prototype works wonderfully." Alice smiled back. "It took me off my feet, though, and we may need to adjust the charge." "Quite. Well done, Alice." Alice nodded and wandered off to her room. As she opened the door, she was greeted by a panicked fluttering from a cage, where her rescue owlin, Albert, sat. "What was that? What was that?" he squawked. Shh, shh, don't worry. It's safe. It's just an invention, Albert." "It was loud," he cried. "I know. Did you want to fly around a bit? Would that help?" "Yes, please." The owl squawked and fluttered out happily as the cage opened and glided around the room. Then Alice heard her father talking to someone. She crept to the door and listened.
"Guns breaking, hate, crushing the gauntlet."
It did not sound very good. Alice carefully left and went down to the workshop to inspect their prized possession, the autosuit, a set of ever-shifting armor changing form depending on the necessary function. Meanwhile, halfway across the country, the Evensong adventurers were trying to puzzle out a strange box. It was of an icosahedron shape, and crafted with glowing runes all over. They had found the puzzle box whilst on an adventure to the local market, when a strange, hooded figure ran into them, proclaimed that the insidious cult was chasing after them and that they needed shelter immediately. Unfortunately for this fellow, they possessed an arrow sticking out of their back, left a blood trail behind them, and the party could not afford medical attention for a stranger. They decided to simply cut their losses, and decided it would be quicker to just rob the fellow of his priceless puzzle box and left him to expire in the street, where he could not lead this cult to their home. Charity is apparently off the menu where Octavia is concerned. Nevertheless, the party had secretly gained the ire of the cult, and while they tried to solve its complex magical nature through a mixture of lockpicking, brute force, and continuous staring, the cult had surrounded the guild hall. The door was opened by Betty the barmaid, only for her to be flattened by a brute in a tentacled mask on the other side. Following the fellow from behind was a dozen or so squid-masked people carrying a mixture of weapons. A tall, robed individual commanded the hall.
"Give us the box, or we'll tear this place down brick by brick."
The party and large parts of the guild ignored their presence entirely, too drunk on their beer to notice. The figure shouted louder, sending a chaotic bolt towards the tables as he did.
"I said hand over the box."
Delphine yawned, and Dexter looked to the guildmaster, who turned again to Maisie the chef. Guildmaster Arlo then, a wizened fellow, turned towards the cultist, cleared his throat, and said,
Quiet down, please. I have just got a nasty hangover.
The cult leader was furious, and they all gripped their weapons as Maisie pulled a rope, and a trap door opened beneath the leader's feet, and he fell down into the latrine ditch below. The man spluttered as the brute charged forwards, club bared. Octavia put down her mug of ale, smashed her gauntlets together, and caught the club mid-swing. She then kneed the fellow as he stumbled back into Arlo, and rounded on him with a sucker punch. Blood poured out of his nose as he fell into the guildmaster's arms. By this point, Astrid and Dexter had bothered to get up, with Delphine and Dea still poring over the box, and the pair advanced into the melee. Soon a fully fledged bar brawl had emerged, with bodies being flung across the guild hall. Finally, Delphine had solved the puzzle, when a cultist fell into the table, smashing it and sending the box flying across the floor. The box rolled, and a glowing number 7 appeared. Delphine quickly grabbed it from underneath a charging fellow as Deus parried him aside, and she counted 20 sides on the box. She spent the time dodging all manner of blows, bodies, flying drinks, and chairs while trying to roll a 20 on the dice box. When the box finally rolled the magic number, she cheered as the number glowed. She picked it up, popped off the lid, to find a deck of cards inside.
What's this supposed to be? A sick joke or something? Someone swapped out our treasure with some crappy playing cards.
Before Delphine could work out her prize, the cultists all stopped, looked at her, and chanted,
The deck, the deck, the deck, the deck, seize the deck, the deck.
Suddenly, Deus dashed in and shouldered off an oncoming cultist and exclaimed,
Well, clearly it is important to these guys.
As Astrid knocked aside a cultist, kicking him in the head, and Octavia threw one across the hall, Deus stopped, seeing Deuce appear for the first time since Dark Snow. and tried to catch them. Deuce held out their arm forward as the cultist marched forwards and sent out a frightening bolt of lightning from his fingertips, cracking open tiles and knocking down a trio with the smell of burnt flesh. Having infinite questions to ask his potential future self, Deus ran forward as a chair was thrown at, or rather through Deuce, and they evaporated into mist once more, just as Deus reached them. He fell to his knees and muttered, I can do magic? Eventually, the brawl settled down as the cult were largely knocked out and then evicted into the sewage tracks, the few conscious ones yelling as they fell. Of revenge and the wrath of the Great One. They finally turned the tables back to normal and studied the deck. Having seemingly not found it to be magical at all, or at least not noticeably, they decided to simply play a game of rummy. Deus did feel a weird rush of energy and compound of interesting ideas, calculations, and the like, his brain growing to new heights when he thrusted the star card forward. But when he tried to find the card again, it had simply vanished from the deck. Gone. Just gone. Naturally, when he asked them about this star card, the others just called him crazy. Meanwhile, back in Dark Snow, Alphonse was getting rather moody, having just discovered that the old Lord of Dark Snow had been in severe debt to the Harpers Guild, who supplied him with mercenary aid throughout his tenure, and having realized he lacked the funds to pursue both his inventions and maintain a barony, including the much-needed defenses now that the gangs had started to become more confident and dangerous, he decided to broker a deal that would have his daughter Alice enlisted and trained by the guild, in addition to a supply of experimental technology delivered to them in exchange for dealing with the angry and increasingly mobile gangs that intended to seize power in the vacuum of Sven von Ballenheim's demise. Alphonse went to his daughter in the workshop to break the news.
Alice, I have come to ask for your help.
Yes, father.
I'm afraid you must join Calidus Wren, our guard captain. He is to take you to the Harpers. They are to train you to become a hero. Perhaps the greatest this land has ever seen. It is not only for our protection, but for our future, Alice. Do you understand?
Is something the matter, father? Are we not safe here?
Alice asked uneasily. Not as well as I would like. It will be a temporary arrangement, I promise, but I expect you to learn much from this. Alice pondered this, unhappy, but eventually agreed to her father's suggestion, as long as she could be allowed to take Albert with her. Her father agreed and gave her the pistol prototype as a project to work on, as well as one of his prized auto suits he was working on, explaining its superior stealth technology and how it would help her blend in when needed. And so, as Alice left with the Harpers, Alphonse brought out a map of Dark Snow and plotted his future, as the Evensong adventurers tried to find cool new games to play with their fancy deck of cards. I'm sure many things could be found within that. Oh, and of course, the Cult of the Deep are scheming and preparing for revenge deep down in the sewers. I thank you for listening, and I bid you farewell until next time we hear of the Evensong adventurers and the schemes of the Dubois family. I hope to see you once again at the campfire soon.
Thank you.